Welcome to the SanderFAQ. Today, because I told you about the origins of allomancy, people want to know about the origins of feruchemy. Feruchemy being the power in Mistborn where people are able to store abilities into pieces of metal and draw them out. And this will also be the origin of Hemalurgy, which I think you will enjoy. So, feruchemy came first. I actually designed feruchemy for a separate book from Mistborn. For those who don't know the history, I wrote Mistborn. I think it was book number 11 of mine, unpublished, and I wrote a book called The Final Empire, which was book number 12. And in The Final Empire, one of the powers that people had was feruchemy. Where did feruchemy come from? This one is fun because I can trace feruchemy all the way back to being in high school.
How do you do, fellow kids?
What?
I am an insomniac. And I don't mean this in the terms of, oh, I like to stay up late. I mean this in the terms of some nights I am incapable of sleeping. I actually have medication for it now, and I haven't had an insomniac night in probably 5 or 6 years. But before then, it was regular that I would just lay in bed for hours and hours and hours and hours, feeling exhausted and not be able to sleep. This happened to me all the way through high school. You have one of these nights and it has a cascading effect. And I remember being in high school and being exhausted. Just drop over exhausted. And this is the only time it happened. They actually sent me to the nurse's office to lay down for once. It only happened once. I wish it would have happened many more times because I definitely could have used that sleep. But they sent me to the nurse's office to see if everything was okay with me, see if I was sick. And I was laying down and I'm like, man, I am so sleepy right now. Why can't I save my sleep and then turn it on when I actually want to go to sleep and fall asleep, because at night I'm wide awake when I don't want to be, and then at school I am so sleepy I can barely keep my head up. And that was the origins of a magic system where you can store attributes of yourself. You can be weak for a couple of weeks and then use that strength later on. If you're half as strong as normal, then later on you've got a couple weeks stored up worth of being twice as strong. You can store up your sleep to use later. You can store up memories, ideas, and stick them into. It actually became pieces of metal because of the Mistborn magic system, where I wanted a thematic tie between the two things rather than some other trinket to store your attributes. It became metal mines. And this was designed directly as a opposite to allomancy. And allomancers are getting powers directly from a source of strength beyond them. And I wanted something that felt a little more zen, a little more my strength is coming from within for the feruchemy powers, particularly because of the individual who is using the feruchemy in the books. And so this idea of taking this magic system for another book that hadn't worked, Mistborn Prime didn't work, Final Empire Prime didn't work, but Mistborn the Final Empire did, and giving this to a character who had a bit of more of this Zen feel where his power is himself planning for the future in order to be able to be stronger later on. It has a great thematic power, and I finally gave somebody the ability that I had always wanted to have myself. Now that leads us to Hemalurgy. Where did Hemalurgy come from? Well, Hemalurgy grew because as I was writing a trilogy, I wanted to have a magic system to explore for all 3 books, and I wanted to have a magic system that had some moral complications to it. One of my mentors was David Farland, who has since passed on. He has an excellent magic system in his Rune Lord series, which involves stealing people's strength or stealing people's various attributes. And I thought, a magic system somewhere along those lines where in allomancy you're relying on the power from beyond, the power of the spiritual realm. For feruchemy, you're relying on your own strength from the past. What about somebody who just stole people's magical powers? And I designed Hemalurgy around that, which is why we ended up with Inquisitors with spikes through their eyes.